Hi, I'm Stathis, your host. Before we jump in this episode, let me introduce DevRelx. DevRelx is a hub for developer marketing and DevRel professionals. Stay home while DevRelx brings you rich content to boost your DevRel game. Access developer population insights, news, job openings, and more. Discover how to empower developers and grow communities at DevRelx.com. Today's episode will start with a quote from our guest.
If we can do that, then it's just an open line of communication. You don't have to work up to it. There's a level of respect that's there and an understanding, and I think that can get you a long way, even when you make mistakes.
Hello, welcome to Under the Hood of Developer Marketing, our /data podcast. I'm Stathis, your host. Today, I'm joined by someone who puts his energy into making sure no one takes a wrong turn, whether it's driving, walking, or just choosing where to eat. And most importantly, empowering developers to help us do so. Mike Pegg. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. Glad to be here.
Mike is one of these people that has the knowledge and experience we're looking for in this effort we do to help everyone understand developer marketing and developer relations and become more effective in it. And he's one of the reasons why we just had to have a second edition in our book. But before we jump into that, Mike, do you want to take a second to introduce yourself to our listeners?
I would be glad to. Thanks again. My name's Mike Pegg. I like to say when I introduce myself at Google that my username here at Google is MPeg for Mike Pegg. And I have a brother named John. And well, if he worked at Google, he'd be JPEG, but he doesn't work here. So MPEG and JPEG.
That's definitely something to remember.
Yeah, I used to work for a compression company, and the research scientists there loved the compression humor there. But anyhow, I hail from Southern Ontario, Canada, originally from Canada, and I'm married. I have 3 kids, and I live here in Palo Alto. And been working here at Google for the past 13 years.
So wanna guide us through the trip leading to how did you end up leading developer relations for Google and then Google Maps?
Sure thing. Yeah, I think first of all, the way I got here was really through interest and hobby. To be honest, I love maps. I love geography. Growing up, I had maps on the wall in my bedroom at home as a kid, and was interested in blogging at one point, and decided just to take some interest and real fascination that I had with a product that had just been released only a couple of months before called Google Maps. And like the rest of the world, was pretty enamored with it and kind of interested, and decided, oh, maybe I'll just start a little blog around Google Maps. And started it on Blogger, called it Google Maps Mania, and wrote a little post. And then the next day, started to see some things that were going on around the web with people linking to it and creating screenshots and posting, photo pools in places like Flickr, and had, some content to just, write a post a day. And then along came someone that decided to reverse engineer Google Maps as a developer and overlay some data on it. And that sort of really was the thing that took off. And that started, his name was Paul Rademacher, creating housing maps. And I wrote a post about his mashup day after he had made it. And then someone else made another one, and then someone else made another one, and was really, just really fascinated again by what developers were doing with Google Maps. And so started blogging. That led to an invite to Google's first developer event in 2006 called the Geo Developer Day. And as a guest speaker and just mingling with folks after, spoke to somebody that was in the mobile group at Google. This was prior to Android. And he said, hey, you should give me your resume. Love to, see if we can get you on the team. And I sort of looked at him with a puzzled look and thought, oh, okay, I'm here for maps, but here's someone in another part of Google saying that I should my resume. So I did that, and I landed a role on his team initially. And then about a year and a half into my time at Google, talked to the Maps team, who are dismayed that I was in this other part of Google. And they said, hey, come on over, join our marketing team for Google Maps and the developer side of things. And that's really when I on-ramped into the role I'm in now. So I started off in marketing, Maps only, and then took over developer marketing broadly for Google, which included looking after and co-leading Google I/O, and then decided to shift gears and come back into my product love at Google, which is Maps. And for the past about 3 years, I've been leading the developer relations team on the engineering side on the team here. So yeah, that's in a nutshell the journey to today.
Yeah, that sounds like quite like a trip for a map lover. Yeah, I usually ask, what was the one thing you pick up, something that you picked up in your childhood and you still carry to your everyday work life? Should I think that this is the love for maps for you?
Absolutely. I think one interesting example I give there is, I used to go into tourist office wherever, there's one in my town that was just sort of the local, travel and chamber of commerce kind of place that has all the pamphlets and brochures. And I would always, think that the local provincial roadmap was like just this amazing gem where you could just literally like lift it out of the brochure case and it was free. And it was this like beautiful paper map that you didn't have to pay for. Back when, roadmaps were given to people to get around before apps like Google Maps to help you. And I had that on my room at home. My mom was a really big National Geographic subscriber, and not only did we have the magazine subscription, but she would send away for a lot of the extras that you could buy, like the big atlas, the beautiful National Geographic atlas that would just take up the entire kitchen table when you'd open it, and the globe, and just a lot of the supplemental books, magazines. So that was really, just this huge curiosity, and through, beautiful, rich cartography from National Geographic, just got me really interested in getting out into the world. It wasn't in a super remote part of Canada at all, but enough where, an hour away to a major city, either direction, and just really was interested in going beyond that and sort of seeing the world. So that's definitely something I've carried through. There's a really cool place in one of the Maps buildings here at Google. There's a lot of people like me in the Maps team that are just big map heads, we like to call ourselves now. It's a more modern term. And there's a great book called Map Heads, written by one of the Jeopardy champions. I'm not sure why I'm drawing a blank on the author's name, but Map Heads, great book. Everyone should read it. But anyway, there's a huge file drawer, like the huge steel drawers that maps are kept in, and there's just a stack of these paper maps per drawer that you can just pull out and spread out and look. It's a very analog experience being at Google in the Maps group with, exploring paper maps, but I feel kind of that connection back to my childhood self when I get a chance to, see. There's also a National Geographic bookshelf here that you can see all the yellow spines. It's kind of nostalgic. So I do feel like that's what's carried through to today for me.
Yeah, that's true. And how you say it kind of sounds funny, being in the Google Maps offices and looking at analog maps, which is... Yeah. You're in the place where traditional mapping changed, but still, understand how you say it, and how love for maps, being a map head since a young boy, it's a natural evolution to where you are now. So throughout, you had this journey in maps from analog all the way to leading the developer relations team for Google Maps. What is something you love most about your current role?
Well, I think, first of all, I would say there's a number of things. First off, getting to do something that I love every day. Parlaying the love of maps, and literally just I feel it when I walk up to the building every morning for work. Like just the things that have gone on here to change the way people get around and do things has really changed through a lot of the different applications, mobile apps, top apps that have been created here. So I'm excited to be here, and I think that's a neat thing to be able to come into work and feel excited about the sheer number of people that are using the things that you're involved in doing every day. I think it's really neat. So that for sure. I think just on the pure Google side of things, I think it's extremely rare to be in a situation where the quality of and caliber of people in this collection, in this team, to be able to work in that team, I feel is just a huge privilege. I think we hope for environments and teams like this, I think, and as we set out and work. And I just feel really lucky and happy through the work relationships and friendships that I've developed here over the years. And I think those two things, just loving what I do and just helping people. I think it's when in a social group, when people might discover what line of work I'm in, I kind of look forward to the questions or oh, I've had this problem, or, oh, can you help me fix this? And I don't know, it just makes you feel, like you're helping people. And that's something personally that's kind of gratifying to me.
Yeah, definitely sounds like this. Then the whole thing sounds like career goals for many people, taking the things you love and working to help other people enjoy the things you're producing. You said before that you came from traditional marketing. So what has been a big challenge for you coming from traditional marketing to developer marketing and developer relations?
Yeah, I would say, in the 13 years I've been at Google, 10 of those years were, working in a developer marketing role. And for a portion of that too, leading the consumer side of Google Maps marketing for a short time. I think for about 2 years of that time, I was looking after the consumer side. And I think just the audiences that you're working with, when you look between a consumer marketing or a consumer audience versus a developer audience, just vastly different. And the channels that you'd work with to reach people and help inform them of your products and the things that you have on offer to them are just very different. I think I sort of on-ramped into developer marketing first, and then previously did some more business-to-business marketing in telecommunications prior to Google, and have sort of now spanned B2B or business audience to developer and consumer marketing. And I think the biggest difference really is just, I kind of joke on the developer marketing side that rule number one in developer marketing is that developers don't want to be marketed to. And
Yeah.
it's if you can remember that and adapt how you approach them, then it's a whole lot better, because I think it's a very attentive, a little bit more concentrated audience than perhaps the more fickle, passive consumer audience, really, when you think about the number of consumer messages that are being sent to you in a day, or with your business hat on and your business persona, like the selective messages that you can get access to. I think on the developer side, it's tougher, right? Because you have people that are very busy, are even more discerning and more selective about the messages that they want to consume, and you have very little margin of error to get that right. And so I think you just have to frame it in a way that's remembering how busy that individual is, and how you really just want to communicate with them and talk to them and inform them and talk to them about why the thing that you have, whether it's a product or service, is useful for them, and just be very articulate about it.
Yeah, I totally agree there. And I also come from a traditional marketing role in that, and this was a big challenge for me, developer marketing. Yeah, especially the way you said it, because first of all, developers don't really want to be marketed to, so they're dismissive of any ad placements. I'll put it generally, which are targeted towards.
On that point in particular, I know we've over the years experimented on the developer marketing side, without naming the specific properties. Rest assured, there are places where developers are coming together and meeting. We would have trouble sometimes spending the kind of ad money that we need to spend. There are certain thresholds of spend on the consumer side of Google that you need to have in order to access an agency that needs to do your external media buys. And on the developer side, we can never access this coveted group because we weren't able to show that people were, clicking on ads and reaching those budgets that, those thresholds that you needed to have. So in some cases, again, more traditional channels proved out that they just weren't as useful. as other means. So also briefly too on the word traditional, I get a little shy to say traditional marketing in the context of Google consumer marketing, because I do think that the typical consumer marketing journey here as a product marketing manager responsible for a Google product is very different, I think, than the journey of someone that's external to Google and the different channels that you might make use of. I think that the job isn't as hard, honestly, as it is for someone external to Google, because I think that we already have a lot of people running through the mall, if you will, and in the halls of things and looking around and checking things out. So I think that it's just a matter in the consumer side of that headroom and like how much further can you take the thing that you're marketing beyond the organic place that it's already gotten to. And I think that's a luxury, to be honest, for a lot of marketers to have that tailwind, and then it's just a matter of how, what are the creative things you're going to do to get it even further. And I oftentimes don't think that a consumer marketer here sometimes is experiencing sometimes the pain and struggle that someone that's starting from zero has to deal with. So, it's just that topic of what is traditional marketing at Google, and I don't know, it's definitely a different experience here.
Yeah, I totally agree there. And okay, it's Google. It's deeply technical in by default. But when I use let's say traditional marketing, I mostly mean it in terms of business to consumer in
Right.
less technical audience.
Yeah. True.
I think this is the best way to summarize it. Because exactly what you just said.
Right.
I have to say I'm a big fan of Google Maps myself. Yeah, to the point. I think now a level 5 guide, local guide.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
because I like exploring and saving people the trouble that I had in the past.
Yes.
So
would you say you're more of a reviews person or a photos person?
I can be both, but mostly reviews. I like to go into detail there. What was good and what wasn't. Usually, when things are good. Okay, we have people going in on Google Maps, so I hope my reviews help them experience them too, because there are a lot of good things happening around. And I'll also be lying if I didn't say that at times I've been heavily dependent on Google Maps to sort out where I need to go. Plus, I'm a motorcycle guy, so I cannot have the navigation on at all times. So I need to stop, check Google Maps, and there I go. So yeah, as you being part of the team, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But I've been using Google Maps for quite a while now, and I can see how it grows and how it becomes better. And in fact, being with Maps for I'd say close to a decade now. Because I really love the idea from the beginning. And I can see all the great work developers are putting to make it better and better as time goes by. Taking this into account, why do you think it is for you very important to engage developers in Google Maps?
Yeah, I think back to when I first joined the marketing team at Google. The marketing team was heavily focused on its number one competitor at the time, the number one sort of mapping service, which was MapQuest. And at the time, there was a strong feeling that the Maps API, or the ability to build things on top of Google Maps, was a big differentiator. It was something that no one else had on offer, and was seen as a way for us to try and get Google Maps into the hands of more people, which is what we were trying to do. And we saw the prevalence of Google Maps not just on a desktop mapping service, maps.google.your country code here, and seen as a way to try to put it into the hands of other business and developers that could make use of it around the web, which is also a big goal of Google, right? To organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful. That's our charter from the beginning, our mission statement. And if you think about it, it shouldn't just stop with us taking a view of how this should work. We'd like to put it into the hands of everybody and see what they can do with it. and build on top of that base map and to create new experiences that we haven't even dreamed about. And I think I certainly saw that blogging about it in the very early days, and you can still see it every day. People take new opinionated views on things, and if you look carefully at some of the things that we rely on our phones now, it was really born out of that, and had some of these developer options not been made available and very freely open and accessible to people, full industries may not have been born. Like if you think about just ride sharing and local deliveries, the food delivery options and the ride sharing options that we have today to ask a car to pick us up at the location that we're standing, a lot of those things weren't possible before a lot of this started to come out. And I think that we always saw that an individual developer and a business around that developer were really important to us, and built, entire engineering and product and business and sales teams around that to try to see if we could ourselves build a business around it. So it's always been really from day one, and take a look at the original Google Maps API hack, which I like to call it because it wasn't yet substantiated by an API, but housingmaps.com was the first. It reverse engineered maps.google.com to get those map tiles and build it into an application, and that was a violation of Google's terms. But I think it was telling that we decided to embrace that, and again, build an entire effort around that and make it possible for everybody to do that. And hence the Maps API was born and Google Maps platform. So it's always been very important.
Yes, that's true. And as I said before, you can see how this has helped, Google Maps progress into something bigger, even from, if you want the accuracy of information, or up to the point, as you said, delivery apps, ride-sharing apps, all of these are based on Google Maps. To achieve that, what are some activities you are focusing on to engage these developers?
Yeah, I think if you look at the concept of developer relations at Google, what's interesting, there's lots of developer products at Google, including the Android developer platform and many, many things that it really did start with Maps. And it started with this concept of tools and information and outreach to the developer community. So I think the three pillars that we kind of put that into today really are our documentation. This is something that our Maps documentation is still one of the most popular, highly trafficked doc sets, sets of documentation on developers.google.com to this day. Place a lot of focus on that. We want our documentation to be clear, easy to follow, and really help developers. So documentation is a huge activity that we focus on, and supplementary guides and extra things to help people get the most out of it. And looking at places like YouTube, video, short videos, things to, in a development environment, open up a video and have your development environment there, and to kind of look at new things you can do, and just lots of different ways to follow along. I think Stack Overflow, obviously a big place where we go and try to help answer questions along with the community. And I think events are always a big thing for us as well. We've got our first party events like Google I/O, but then we try to just try to meet developers where they are, hold regional versions of those events in different regions around the world, speak at other events, just really try to nurture and foster that really vibrant geo developer community that's been with us since the beginning, understand what their challenges are, and just try to come up with lots of different programs and activities to reach them and help them understand what they need.
I've heard it a lot of times, especially in the podcast, that documentation always comes first. What are some other key elements that companies or developer marketers must consider in their efforts to engage developers?
Yeah, I think to engage developers, I think the big thing to remember is that you and your team as a developer product or services provider, you really spend all day focused on your thing. And I think the important reminder here is that developers don't. And as much as you want them to think about your product or your service all day, they're trying their best to get in and to use whatever it is you're offering and to get out and move to the next thing. And to remember that their sole focus is on the total sum of all the parts, and what they're building. And so I think it's important when you're engaging them to remember that their day is very chaotic. There's lots of competing interests, and there's where a developer wants to get to, and there's all the things that is preventing her or him from getting there in a day. And I think if you can remember that and think how can I make this person's life easier with my tool or my service or product, I think you'll get further along. If you have an expectation that this is the only thing that they're doing and that your tool is their life, then that can probably result in them overlooking and moving on to the next thing. So I think it's just really understanding what a developer's life is like in a day and trying your best to meet that. So
Yeah, that makes perfect sense actually, because you're, as you said, you're focusing, you're spending all day focusing on your product, but developers spend all day focusing on the things they're doing with what they have in hand. So, in fact, I'd say you really need to give them the actual benefit and how using what you have will make their lives easier.
exactly.
So, for you, during your time in Google Maps, what has been the biggest challenge in getting developers to engage with Maps?
I think the biggest challenge that I've felt is that I think I'll take it from our team first, because I think in order to get developers to engage with you, you have to present a very authentic and genuine look to them, and in everything that you're doing, in your communications to them, in your product offering, and all the elements of that. And I think the challenge that I felt the most is just newcomers to our team. I think that the biggest priority that I have is to help everybody on the Google Maps platform team just try to get to a point where we can empathize as much as possible with our developers, and to as much as possible become a developer ourselves. And I'll give you an example of this. I'm currently, this is an internal project of mine, but I'm trying to help everybody in our team, be it a sales team that a person may not identify as being someone technical or writing code, down to even our engineering teams in some cases too, product managers, everybody, to use our tools and to put a pin on a map and style a map and try to build an Android app with maps or location as a component of that, and just try to empathize and just get on the doorstep of what it's like to be a developer first, because I think that the challenges that we're always going to face is not thinking in the shoes of a developer, and to anticipate what changes we might make, or new product introductions we might make, to get to that point, right, where we can just have a very open line of communication with them. And I think to do that, we have to meet them on their terms and really understand what it is they're doing as developers ourselves. So I think if we can do that, then it's just an open line of communication. You don't have to work up to it. There's a level of respect that's there, and an understanding, and I think that can get you a long way. Even when you make mistakes, I think as a business, everybody is trying to do the right thing, and I think it's sometimes difficult to do the right thing. And so I think if you have that level of respect with your developer community, there sometimes can be some patience with what you're doing, and to bring them along too, to include them, hear their feedback, show that you're listening, deliver on answers that you're trying to come up with to give to them. And I think it's kind of practical common sense at the end of the day. It's how would you want to be treated? So I think that's the biggest challenge, I think, especially when you start to grow a developer community or ecosystem as large as the one that we've that we've been trying to maintain, right? And try our best to make all groups within that community happy. I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, that's true. And empathy should be, as you said, at the base of it, actually, because if your goal is to try and help developers, you need first to understand them.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I, even if someone says that they're not technical, they don't write code, there are enough samples and examples that you can cut and paste and pull together, and through trial and error, I think it's probably one of the most gratifying experiences to put a pin on a map, especially using them so much. I think it's quite magical and gratifying when you get a chance to do that yourself. And so, yeah, I think everyone should be able to do this. I think it should be almost like basic web page construction, or building. So.
Yes, that's definitely true. In our second edition of the book, our Developer Marketing and Relations Essential Guide, you wrote a chapter on working with agencies. When I read it, I loved it because it's much more than simply tips on how to collaborate with an external team, the agency in this case. And I strongly encourage our listeners to do so because there's gold when you really read between the lines of the chapter. If you won't end up working with agencies, I like how the way you write and structure the chapter, it highlights some very key points with how you can prioritize the right tasks and in fact do your best work in developer marketing. So how can working with an agency help you engage developers in something that your team can do, or how does it help your team do better?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit back to the point about developers not necessarily thinking all day about what it is you're offering them. What's great about an agency is that they do. If you can choose the right agency, their task and goal is to obsess about the thing that you've asked them to do. And I think oftentimes in a big company, and sometimes a small, depending on all the things you have to do in a day, getting to that good quality, and obviously depending on what you were going to engage them on, you can really get to a much better place than if you try to squeeze in the creative work to get to that good place internally. So if you're fortunate enough to have the budget and the money to sort of go out and engage with them, I think that it's a good investment. You can get to a very good place because the team of people that you will contract with and partner with can help you get to a really great place. With that good brief and all those good things that go along with agency selection. It's just that focus that I oftentimes don't think we have time to do in our day to day. We need to carve out time for this is a team that's usually primed and ready to get to that point for you. And so I do think you end up in a much better place working and partnering with an agency to get there.
And if you're able to work with an agency to do, as you just said, what are some points that you should take into consideration?
Yeah, I think in the chapter I tried not to wade into the more generic aspects of choosing an agency. I think if you run a Google search on that term, you'll be provided with lots of tips. But I think if you think about audience for a minute, again, back to our discussion about consumer audience and even a traditional business to business or B2B audience, developers are totally different. And so I think to reach them, you need to work with the team that's thinking the same way you and your product management and engineering teams are to build for them. Are they it's a very unique audience. Is the team that you're contracting with, are they developers too? And that's extremely rare. Like to find I guess I'm talking when I say agency in this case, because it can mean a lot of different things. In this case, I'm talking specifically about a digital, and if they have analog outputs, that's fine too, but digital creative agency. I think ideally they're a team of developers themselves. When we contracted with a great agency in Portland called Instrument for Google I/O, they stayed with us for many years because they had an in-house development team that were super excited to work on the project because they were developers of the things that IO was presenting to the entire developer community. They felt like they were almost getting backstage passes to a band they love, sort of thing, to work on it and to have an impact in their own developer community. So definitely, them being developers first, having maybe not even at the technical level, but at the design and copy editing sort of level and writing level, just are they true to the audience? Do they know the audience? Do they know how to communicate with the audience? And if it's their first time, I'd be a little bit more weary. But if there's someone that has experience on successful developer marketing projects, then I think I would trend towards someone like that more so than someone that does mostly consumer or business to business and is just trying to think about this new audience for the first time. So really, are they developers? Do they have that experience? And are they versed in communicating with that audience?
In short, you want someone who understands what you do, or even better, likes it, and then want someone who understands how the audience you're targeting thinks, or it's close to it.
Yes,
ideally.
Absolutely.
This should be, I'd say, the two first points to look out, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they're someone that just really obsesses and thinks about this, and isn't just trying to win business, right? That cares a lot about it.
Yeah, it's true. And taking it now the other way around, what's the best way to prepare your team to work with an agency? Because an agency is someone external, but with whom you're working with for your goals.
Yeah.
So how do you set the ground for everything to work smoothly?
Absolutely. I think, first of all, that brief process is really important. I think whatever creative brief you've worked on and what you've set this team of people to task to work on, I just really, the advice I give a lot of teams that I've managed when working with an agency is just to let them do their work. It's the adage of, we don't want to be micromanaged by whoever it is our direct manager. We want space to do our work and to produce the best work. And I think specifically with creative people, it's worthwhile to have some patience and let that creative team reach a point where they can deliver what it is you've asked them to do. And I think the word to not be prescriptive is a line I've said a lot, where when you're getting that first review of things, not to get too worried, like not to feel like that is the final deliverable, but to give feedback and not to give too prescriptive, not for that feedback to be too prescriptive, to generally talk about how you're feeling about it, and your own goals again, but let them hear that, take that back and iterate on it. And I will guarantee you that the second and sometimes third or fourth or fifth reviews can produce the work you're looking for. But you have to have the patience and the stamina, to sort of go on that marathon to get to the end. It's not instant. It's not perfect. Anything that you might ask for is never going to be perfect on the first response. And so just to have that experience and keep your eye on the horizon a little bit more than just what's right in front of you. So.
Yeah, that's great. And it's been great talking to you today, Mike, about engaging developers and working with agencies. And for our listeners, I strongly suggest you get your copy of Developer Marketing and Relations, The Essential Guide, which now has a second richer edition, thanks to great people like Mike Pegg, who joined us today. It's available on Amazon, and also all profits from book sales are donated to worthy code organizations like Code.org, Coder Dojo, and Girls Who Code. Mike, before we close, if some of our listeners want more information from you, how can they reach you?
Oh, sure. Well, back to the intro that I gave. It's easy to remember. It's twitter.com/mpegg. It's MPEGG. And I end up sharing lots of fun map stuff on there, developer and otherwise. So
it's been great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I will also just add too that it's been great to be a part of the community of authors that has written that book. Each chapter is someone different from some other corner of the industry, and I've just enjoyed reading the chapters of some of my colleagues and getting to know some of those people too. So it's been great.
Perfect. So thank you for joining us. And our listeners, thank you for listening to Under the Hood of Developer Marketing, the podcast devoted to developer marketing and relations. If you want to listen to other episodes, you can subscribe at developermarketingpodcast.com or follow us on Twitter at /datahq for regular updates.